Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Is the sound all right? Do I need to increase it? Jayant, that's good.
No, this time I can hear properly.
You can't hear, Sandhya ji?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
So, Jayant is our co-host this evening, and he will keep an eye out for people coming in. Let them in. Watch out for your questions in the chat or raised hands. And we shall continue. Bhagavad Gita, we have started chapter 4. And in this, at the beginning, Shri Krishna was praising this knowledge, talking about the knowledge which he has given to Arjuna in chapter 2 and 3. Basically, the knowledge of the self, that you are the self, existence, consciousness, bliss. You have to realize this. That is the purpose of life, and that takes you beyond all sorrow. Also, the knowledge of karma yoga, how to convert our daily activity into spiritual practice. These are the two fundamental questions of spiritual life. How do we become enlightened? Question 1. You might say, that's the real question. What else is there? There is something else. How do we live here now? How do we live our lives? And how do we become enlightened? How do we live our lives here? And that's these are the two questions which M, the author of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he asks Sri Ramakrishna, in the second meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, that how does one get love of God? How does one feel devotion to God? And also the second question is, how is one to live in the world? So exactly those two, the answers to those two questions. One is the answer is enlightenment, realize who you are. Second is karma yoga, convert your activities into spiritual practice. Manifest that realization in your day-to-day life. As he was doing so, at the beginning of the 4th chapter, he happened to mention that this is an ancient teaching. It's not being given to you for the first time. This ancient teaching, which is the Vedas, was revealed by me to the sun god, Viwaswana, who transmitted it down to Manu, who transmitted it down to Ikshvaku, and so on. So there was an ancient lineage of teachers and students. Over time, this teaching, it became weakened. It fell into the hands of people who were not spiritually disciplined, who did not have the right qualifications, who were distracted by the world. And religion, spirituality degenerated. And so I am again giving you this knowledge today. So what I gave in ancient times, I am giving to you. Now, Arjuna asks the question which will immediately come to all of us. Just a minute. Knowledge is ancient, fine. And there were teachers earlier and students earlier, and this knowledge has been given by different teachers to different students. But how is it that there's one teacher alone? You are saying you gave it at the beginning of creation to the sun god, and which was passed down, and now you are the same teacher who is giving the teaching to me. How is that possible? Because you are contemporary to me. You are about my age. You're just a little bit older than me. How is it possible that you have given? So who are you? Who are you who can make such a claim? I was just thinking, even the oldest of teachers can't say something like that. One of my teachers who passed away last year, he was 105 years old. So many of our senior swamis, elderly swamis, Swami Chaitanyanandaji, who is one of the senior most swamis in the United States now, Swami Sarvapriyananda, they all studied under him. He was their teacher too, and he was my teacher. It's like somebody who's been your grandfather's teacher, your father's teacher, and your teacher too. But even that very old Vedanta teacher, his name was Damodar Ashram or Medha Chaitanya. Even that very old Vedanta teacher, even if he's 105 years old, he couldn't have taught at the beginning of the creation of the universe. And so even the oldest of teachers can't do that. And Krishna, you look pretty young. You are about my age. How is it that you have taught this teaching in ancient times? So this is the perfect occasion for Shri Krishna to reveal his identity as an avatar, as an incarnation. So there are some very famous verses coming along now. In fact, there are sometimes the people know only these verses from the Gita which are coming. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. That one or two verses there. Maybe sometimes people know only these two verses. So that's going to come now, where Krishna declares he is an incarnation of God. Notice, he has not done that earlier. It's only when he is asked, then he tells. He reveals his true nature. Even the teaching itself, in the second chapter, notice that only when he was asked by Arjuna. Arjuna had been saying so many things in the first chapter. The whole of the first chapter, Krishna keeps quiet. It's only in the second chapter when Arjuna declares his helplessness. I'm confused. I don't know what's right and wrong. You must teach me. Then only Krishna starts teaching. So Arjuna's question was, verse number 4, Arjuna uvāca aparaṃ bhavato janma janma vivasvataḥ kathametadvijānīyāṃ tvamādau proktavāniti. So your birth was recent, and Viwaswana, the sun god, we need not bother about whether there is a sun god or not. That's part of the whole theological framework of Hinduism. But basically, the point is this teaching is ancient, and the teaching comes from none other than God. These are the only 2 points. The sun god is very ancient, and how should we understand this, your claim? You are the one who has taught this. tvamādau proktavāniti. You are the one who has given this teaching in ancient times. So it's also another point has to be noted. What was given in ancient times as the Vedas, as the Upanishads, is now being given as the Gita to Arjuna. So it's the same knowledge. What is there in the Upanishads is also here in the Gita. I remember I used to teach little kids in a school in India, Devghar Vidyapeeth. So the boys who were, almost all of them were Hindus, they asked, one boy asked that Christians study the Bible and the Muslims study the Quran. So if the Vedas are our central texts, foundational scriptural texts, but we don't study the Vedas. So I said then the final best teachings of the Vedas are in the Upanishads, and they were like, we don't study the Upanishads either. Yes, but you all study the Gita. So I knew the boys used to chant the Gita daily. So you study the Gita, so you know the central teachings of the Upanishads, of the Vedas. So that was Arjuna's question. How is it possible? Which means, who are you? And Shri Krishna here reveals his nature as the avatar. I would like to tell you in brief what's going to happen now, and then we'll look at the verses. What is coming up next? So this whole question of avatars, an incarnation of God, there have been spiritual teachers throughout human history, in every civilization, including especially in India, but there's always been a category of a special kind of person. So in Hinduism, avatar is well known. There are many, many avatars. Famously, every Hindu knows about the 10 avatars of Vishnu, but it is a saying, asankheyam avatara. There are innumerable avatars in ancient times and now and in the times to come. So there's no limit to the number of avatars possible, incarnations of God. In Christianity, the incarnation of Jesus Christ is accepted. So Jesus as the Son of God is actually the incarnation of God. When he says, I and my Father are one, he means that he is one with God. And so it is God alone who has come in the form of Jesus Christ. So the incarnation avatar theory is accepted in Christianity. In Buddhism, the Buddha is a special person. There is no avatar in the sense that because there is no God, so who's going to be incarnated? But the Buddha is there. In Islam, the incarnation theory is not accepted, but Prophet Muhammad is seen as unique, is not like everybody else. And in Judaism, the prophets of Judaism are seen as somewhat different from other human beings. It's just not like everybody else. So, whether a religion, Sikhism does not accept avatars as such, but it accepts the speciality of the 10 gurus, the gurus of Sikhism. So, and Jainism, there is no God for incarnation, but the Tirthankaras, the 24 Tirthankaras are regarded as special beings. So, we see across all religions, whether they even believe in God or not, there is a belief in a unique person of special powers. Maybe the person is a human being, but not like everybody else. So, at the source of every religion, there are these special persons. This idea itself got developed into the incarnation theory in the theistic religions like Hinduism and Christianity. Now, Krishna will say that he is an incarnation of God. What is an incarnation and how is it different from other human beings? Why only human beings? Because Krishna or Rama they look like human beings, or Rama, Krishna or Christ. How are they different from the rest of us? Remember, in Hinduism there have been non-human avatars also. So the first avatar, it's almost like, not almost like, it does show like the evolution of life from a fish to a tortoise to the Nrisingha, half man, and the boar first, Varaha, and then Nrisingha, the half man, half lion, to the Vamana, the dwarf avatar, to the human forms of God. So all of these forms are divine forms and they are regarded as incarnations of God. But we're especially interested in the human forms of incarnation. What are they and how are they different from the rest of us? One is the birth of the avatar is different from the birth, the janma of us. We are jivas, sentient beings. Our birth and the avatars, they don't say the birth of the avatar, we say their appearance. They appear and they disappear. So Ramakrishna says that the moon is reflected in the water, and the little fishes at night, they play with the moon. They think it's another kind of fish. They are happy to play with it. And when the morning comes, the moon disappears. Never was the moon in water. It just looked like that, and it played with the fish as long as they delighted the fish. But when it disappeared, it's gone forever, and leaving behind this memory of this extraordinary fish who came among us. But they did not really come among us. It's a Lord himself. And Sri Ramakrishna was talking about the avatar, incarnation, who comes and human beings think that he's like a human being. You talk with him, play with him, learn from him, and then suddenly disappears. So the appearance and disappearance of the avatar are not like the birth and death of ordinary human beings like us. How so? So, ordinary human beings, we are born under our karma, under the force of our karma. 1 second. The idea is, why or where do we come from? We are born and reborn again because of our karma. Where does our karma come from? It comes from our desire. Where does our desire come from? It comes from our ignorance of our real nature. We do not know that we are this infinite being, existence, consciousness, bliss. Not knowing this, we have a sense of lack of fulfillment. Apurna, we are not full, we want things. The moment we are identified with the mind, all the desires in the mind are my desires. I want my life to go this way, I do not want my life to go that way. I have so many experiences I want to have, and all of these desires in the mind, they become my desires. Further, when I get identified with the body, the hunger of the body is my hunger, the disease of the body is my disease. So all of the problems of the world, they make us acutely conscious of our incompleteness, of our very unsatisfactory nature of our existence. So because of that, we have desire, kama. And because we have desire, when we act with desire, it leads to consequences, results. Good action, ethical action, we say punyam or merit. Punyam is merit. And that the result of that is sukham, a pleasant life. Things will go well for you. Evil action, immoral action, we call it papam, demerit, papa, or sin or demerit. And the result of that is unhappiness, unpleasantness in our life. And generally we see a mixture of all of these. So basically, our birth is from ignorance, ignorance of our real nature. God has no ignorance at all. God has no ignorance at all. God is in fact all-knowing. God is always Ishvara or Bhagavan is always aware of his, you can say his / her or its, the gender is not important, divine nature, that the Lord is none other than Nirguna Brahman, that's the real nature of the Lord. The Lord is always aware of it. Not only that, the Lord is aware of everything else also, that the Lord is omniscient, knows everything about the universe and everything about us. And the Lord acts out of freedom. In Sanskrit is the term swatantriya, out of freedom. We do not act out of freedom, we act out of ignorance. And the results of the actions lead to our birth and our death. So, this is one big difference. When the Lord appears as an incarnation, it is from knowledge and freedom. When we come to this body, we are born, we don't appear. We don't say, I have now incarnated. No, we are born, helplessly so. And as a result of our ignorance, producing desire, producing karma. So that's one big difference. Where do we come from? And where does the incarnation come from? Entirely different places, entirely different backgrounds. Not only that, another big difference is the nature of the jiva and the nature of the avatara. The jiva is always in bondage. We go from life to lifetime in bondage until we get liberation. Until that time we are bound, we are samsari, we are travelers in samsara, and we are bound to remain in samsara, in bondage. And that's because of the ignorance. So we are trapped in samsara. The incarnation is not trapped in samsara. The incarnation comes here out of compassion. Not because the incarnation is trapped in samsara. The incarnation comes, so the difference is this. When Swami Vivekananda said that nature has two kinds of creations. There is a general creation of living beings and the universe, material universe. So Prakriti or nature creates two kinds of things. One is this entire universe, and including our bodies, our minds also, they are all given by nature to us. So sentient beings, the body mind of sentient beings and the external universe, they are all created by nature. That's one kind of creation. And then Swami Vivekananda mentions nature as a special creation, once in a while, special product, the incarnation of God. And Swami Vivekananda says like Krishna or Jesus, so they are special products. And we can say we are machine made, generic product, factory product, and the incarnation comes as a sort of handmade product, very, very, very special. Not at all in the assembly line from which we are rolled off. So that's what will come now. Krishna will say that the difference between you and me. You and me means between I, custom made. Rick is saying it's custom made, made to order. So Krishna will say, we'll see later that Krishna says that you and I are not the same. We are different. I come from a special power of Maya, which is only time it is used is when the Lord wants to incarnate. He uses Maya to come. We are the general products of Maya all throughout time. Practically, what does it mean? So Maya produces, or Prakriti produces the 5 elements, the ancient cosmology, the space and air and fire and water and earth, and by a mixture of these 5 elements, our minds and bodies are formed. The 5 elements have a subtle form which produces our mind's subtle body, and a gross form, physical form, which produces our physical body. That's the general creation, and the entire universe is also made of these 5 elements. But all this is avatara theory, right? We are moving away a little bit from Advaita Vedanta here. Advaita Vedanta is not very good at avatara theory. That's why Sri Ramakrishna has said that when he told Narendranath, he who was Rama, he who was Krishna is in this body Ramakrishna, but not in your Vedantic sense, which he meant Advaitic sense. The theory of avatar says that Maya directly produces the body of the avatara. It's a very interesting concept, a strange concept, that it's not actually, even the physical body of an avatar is not like our body. It's not a product of ordinary matter like our body. The theory of avatar says it's a Mayika body. Mayika body means a direct product of Maya. Not Maya having become material elements and out of that the body is produced. So that's why it accounts for the miraculous birth of incarnations. The Immaculate Conception in the case of Jesus, in the same story we hear about Ramachandra, Shri Krishna, about Ramakrishna, not a typical material natural event like the birth of our bodies, not like that. So that's another big difference. In fact, there's even a belief in certain Vaishnava circles that one should not destroy the body of an avatar. After the avatar has passed away, the body remains. So Ramanujacharya's body is still preserved after nearly 1100 years. I've not been to see it, but it's just, I don't think you can make out any features, but it's a special mixture of chemicals. So something like a mummy, I think there's some effort has been made to preserve it. So I remember reading, after the cremation of Sri Ramakrishna, after Sri Ramakrishna passed away, his body was cremated. Swami Vivekananda wrote sometime later a letter to his brother disciples saying that we have committed a great sin in destroying the body of Sri Ramakrishna. Of course, the ashes are still there in the main temple at Belur Math. So there's a certain belief that the body of an incarnation should not be destroyed. It's a very valuable thing. It should be kept. There's a question: is that why Sri Ramakrishna could not bear? Yes, so many things are very interesting about Sri Ramakrishna. This is the first time that an incarnation has been studied and observed in such close detail, and records have been maintained. So extraordinary things which would have destroyed the body of an ordinary person, the kind of spiritual practices he underwent. There are many extraordinary events about the body of Sri Ramakrishna. One more difference between an incarnation and us: the purpose. Why are we here, and why is the incarnation here? Why are we here? We basically say we don't know. But anyway, Vedanta says, or all the theories in Indian philosophy, Vedanta and Sankhya, Buddhism and Jainism, they all say karma. We are here as a result of our past karma, and in order to do what? In order to experience the results of that past karma with the ultimate goal of one day, one life, attaining liberation, moksha. So why are we here? The direct answer is our past karma, which has accumulated over many lifetimes. This accumulated karma is called sanchita karma, accumulated karma. In each lifetime, a part of it becomes, so to say, ripened, and it gives out results. So the part which becomes ripened, activated, is called prarabdha, which has started giving results. So what result does it give? It gives us a body, it gives us parents, it gives us experiences in this life, a mixture of pleasant and unpleasant experiences. And once that prarabdha is over, this body will die. And the subtle body with the reflected consciousness in it, the jivatma, it will move on to other lives. Again, propelled by karma. We are propelled by karma and nothing else. Swami Vivekananda, I often quote that: good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. But whosoever wears a form wears the chain too. What is the chain we are wearing? Our karma. We are bound by our past karma. And so all the experiences, the major experiences we have in our lives are because of our past karma. No one to blame. It is something that I have cooked for myself over many lifetimes. Is it predetermined? No. Only the major events. So the body that I have, the life, the age, how long I will live in this body, my parents, my general environment. It could be a good environment. You could be, somebody was joking that it's a sign of great good karma to be born as a dog in Manhattan. You know, you're really taken care of and pampered. So great good karma in to wealthy parents, and you get a good education, you have a healthy body, things go well in life, whatever you're good at studies, and when you start working, whatever you touch turns into gold, everything goes very well. And that's an enormous amount of good karma which is being used up. So remember, when things go well, you're using up a lot of credit with God. You're maxing out your credit cards, the divine credit cards. And illness, abuse, failure, struggling, working hard, no use, nothing is working out at all. Bad karma. And all of this mixture is what we experience in our lives. All of it is cooked up by our past. It's just the result, the consequences of past actions. But in the midst of this, how we react and what we do, that generates fresh karma. We have that freedom. We have some degree of freedom here. With the same playing field, some play a better game, some play a worse game. So the playing field is set by our karma. But how we play, to some extent, we have some freedom. And devotion to God, and grace of Guru, that increases the freedom, gives us a lot of, what do the bankers call it, line of credit. You can use more than you deserve. So that comes by the grace of God sometimes. Avatara has none of these. Avatara does not come for this, nor does Avatara have a bundle of karma in the past. The avatar is completely free. So Avatara comes for establishing spirituality. Remember, the whole game of life, why is it all going on? Always the goal is God realization. We have come here for exhausting our past karma, no doubt. But why this karma at all? Why are we exhausting past karma? What's the point of it ultimately? As Swami Vivekananda says, the goal of life is to manifest the divinity already within us, to realize that we are oneness with God, in whichever framework you understand it, to attain nirvana, salvation, whatever you call it. That is the ultimate goal. It's a spiritual goal. Life is spirituality. As long as we don't understand it, we suffer. More we understand it, the less we suffer actually. So the avatara comes for establishing spirituality. It's very natural then, as Krishna says, when spirituality goes down, deteriorates, God himself, herself, itself has to reincarnate, has to come again to re-establish religion. Re-establish religion means to show that religion is real, spirituality is real, that you can attain transcendence of sorrow, ultimate deep peace and joy. You can attain it. It's possible, and you must attain it. It is possible, and it must be done. And the avatar shows that it's real. It's not just some books, some old stories. And the avatar also sets out new paths of spiritual practice. A new view of religion comes with each avatar. Then another thing that the avatar does is help the spiritual. Krishna will say all this. I'm just telling you what's going to come. Avatara will help the spiritual. You notice whether it's Buddha or Jesus or Krishna or Ramakrishna, the first priority was a small group of highly spiritual people, those who are God seekers, who have been praying and meditating, maybe lifetime to lifetime, trying to realize God. The first priority of the incarnation is to set them free, because they are ready. They are ready. It just requires a little bit of grace to set them free. So the incarnation comes for them, number one. Number two, Krishna will say to destroy the wicked. Now destroy may not mean actually with arrows and missiles as in the past maybe, but it's just to reform the wicked so that the wicked become good. So to establish religion, and for the elevation, for the liberation of the good, and for the reformation of the wicked. So that's the purpose of an incarnation. Again, all this is highly developed in Vaishnava Vedanta, in the dualistic, theistic schools of Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta is like, if you ask, they are shrug. All right, if you prefer to think in those ways, the whole point is to realize you are Brahman and that's it. All right. So this is the basic difference between Avatara and the Jiva. Before we go into the verses, are there questions I can take a look at? Circumstances of Sri Ramakrishna's birth. I strongly recommend Christopher Isherwood's book, Ramakrishna and His Disciples. So if you read it, it's really wonderful. It tells you the circumstances of Sri Ramakrishna's birth, his life. Very beautiful book. I think many people have been introduced to Sri Ramakrishna through that book, Christopher Isherwood's Ramakrishna and His Disciples. Pranav says, Christianity has a more formal way to confer sainthood. Hinduism, how do we know if someone is an avatar when they are still alive? No way of knowing. We really have. Who is liberated? We really don't know. Who is among the liberated, who greatly spiritual people, who is an avatar? One thing you should know is avatars are very rare. Very, very rare. Enlightened people are more, enlightened saints are little more common. Not common at all, but little more so. So don't go hunting for avatars. There are people have a, sometimes they go hunting for enlightened masters. Why have you not started your spiritual practice? Yes, I'm looking for a teacher. There's so many teachers. No. None are apparently good enough for me. Oh, my teacher must be an enlightened person. I'm looking for who is enlightened. How will you know? And avatar especially, how will you know? The only way to know an avatar is by the grace of the avatar, if the avatar reveals himself or herself to you. Otherwise, no. People thought in Sri Ramakrishna's time, people thought he is a madman. People in the Kali temple, we worship him as avatar everywhere now. That's why Swami Vivekananda said it does not matter. If you accept him as avatar, well and good for you. If you had those who accept him, some may accept him as a great saint, some may accept him as a great spiritual seeker. Whatever it is, in whichever way, you profit from his life and teachings. That's the most important thing. Swami Vivekananda said that. It's not compulsory for you to accept that Sri Ramakrishna is an avatar. Christianity has a more formal way to confer sainthood. Remember, you can become a saint in Christianity. You can't become an incarnation of God. There's this famous Jewish joke, a rabbi asked a priest, so in your church, the Catholic Church, how high can you go? The priest said, well, if you're really a good priest, you might become a bishop, and higher than that, well, you can become an archbishop, and higher than that, well, that's really difficult, but some people do become cardinals, they can go to Rome and Vatican and be a cardinal, that's higher than. And higher than that, well, there's only one thing that you can be the Pope, and that's it, and that's very rare. And higher than that, well, what's higher than that? There's nothing higher than that. Higher than that is only Jesus, and you can't become that, only God is there. And the rabbi said, well, one of our lads became that, So Jesus being Jewish, so one of our lads became that, the highest. Is there a name for the karma we create in this life? Agami. Kriyamana or prarabdha karma, but agami is the one which is added and is going to be added to you and will become active in some future life. So isn't a saint different? Yeah, saint is different from an avatar. Saint is an avatar, not the same. A saint is like a very holy person, and some of them might be a liberated or enlightened persons. Shankaracharya is considered an avatar of Shiva. Ramanujacharya is considered an avatar of Lakshman actually. Name and author of the book, Christopher Isherwood. Somebody can write it here. Yeah, somebody has already given it here. Rick has given this. So, there's a question about the ever free. Some are ever free. Ever free in the sense, at one point they became free and they still retain their individual identity. So, Nitya Siddha or Nitya Mukta. So, instead of giving up their individual identity and becoming one with Brahman, with the universal existence, consciousness bliss, they still retain a trace of their identity, but they are not bound. So, they may come they often come with God. When God incarnates, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, God brings some friends, pals along with him, and they become different things in different people in the play which God is going to enact. So God's life, what the events of God's life are called Leela of Avatar. The Incarnation's life are called Leela, divine play. And that applies only to the incarnation of God. You can't say my life story is a Leela. No, that's not a Leela. That's just our life. Before I go into the verses, there's a beautiful story about karma which I would like to share. So I said, what happens in our life is the big events are often determined a lot by past karma. So I was in the Himalayas. It's a very touching and beautiful story, so I'll tell you. It's a little long. Somebody's smiling. That's the best kind of story. I was in the Himalayas at that time, and one day we had this little. Sometimes the monks would get together, it's like eating out. Eating out means you get together in one of the ashrams and you make some snacks and you sit together and eat. Like in India they call pakoda and all. And you sit on the ground, like literally on the dirt there, and then you don't eat from the dirt. You have got leaf plates and all. And then one of the monks was telling me, Swami, where you are sitting, this is where the famous yogi Baba Ramdev used to sit and eat pakoras and then go back to his cave and practice Hatha Yoga. So we are just talking about, in India he's a very famous yoga guru, Baba Ramdev. So it's a huge, like an industry, a yoga industry has grown up around him, yoga and Ayurveda industry. Now an interesting comment was made by one of the monks. The yogi sitting in front of you, Swami? So there was this old man in a white dress, not the cloth of a Swami, just a white dress, with a little beard, white hair and beard, sitting there, eating his pakora. His name is Indra Yogi. And he said, the Swamis told me that his yoga is much better than Baba Ramdev's yoga, because they used to practice here together. And whenever the Swamis had any problem, health problem, they would go to Indra Yogi for a solution, some kind of practice. Of course, Ramdev also was a good practitioner, but this person was better. And then this person also tried to spread yoga, start a yoga school. He went down from the Himalayas, started yoga camps, and Ramdev was also starting yoga camps. And whatever Baba Ramdev did succeeded enormously. Every camp was a success, every program. He was soon on TV and whatnot, on magazines, and brands were created in his name. So now it's a huge, huge phenomenon. And whatever Indra Yogi did was a failure. Nobody turned up and nothing worked. And finally he came back to his cave in the mountains. And Indra Yogi was sitting there listening to all of this, and he was chuckling to himself and like stroking his beard and sort of shaking his head. So I asked this monk, we went for a walk after the pakoras in the mountains over the Ganga there. This was in Gangotri. Why does this happen? We often see it. We all know of people who are experts in their field. Maybe your classmates or somebody who was the genius, but never made a name for himself or herself. And there was this other people who are not so good, but they become millionaires and big success in it. So we all know such people. And why does it not work for someone? Why does it work so well for some others? Most of us are in the middle, actually. So he told us the story. It's a very nice story which I'll share with you. So the story is starting now. So he said, Janaka Raja, the great emperor Janaka, father of Sita and all. So one day, somebody asked him, how is it that one man, you have got everything? You are an emperor. You are an enlightened person. So Janaka Raja is always known in our stories as a Brahmagyani, one who has attained knowledge of Brahman, is an enlightened person. You are an enlightened person. And the mother of the universe is your daughter, Sita. And God is your son-in-law, Rama. How does one person attain all of this? You are an emperor and you are an enlightened, you have realized Brahman and you are Jivan Mukta, free in this very life itself. The mother of the universe is your daughter and God is your son-in-law, Rama and Sita. How? And so Janaka thought, it's true, how did all this happen to me? I don't see myself as special. So at night he had this dream. Next, if you want an answer to your question, Janaka, start walking. Tomorrow start walking to the west, and where the sun sets, there you will find a man, a yogi, who's sitting there and eating leaves, Ask him. He knows the answer to your question. He will tell you. So Janaka starts walking and walking and walking, and finally at the end of the day he's tired. He sees under there's a big tree. Under that there's a pile of dry leaves, and there's a yogi sitting there in matted hair eating dry leaves. And Janaka says, "That's my man." And he goes there. And before he can say something, the yogi looks at him and he says, "I know the answer to your question, Emperor Janaka." So he knows who he is and what the question is. "But I won't tell you. You rest here tonight. Tomorrow in the morning, if you want to know the answer to your question, start walking to the west." And you keep walking and walking and walking till you find where the sun is setting. That will be the way it's said. Where the sun is setting, you will find a yogi who's eating ashes. He knows the answer. You ask him. Next morning, the emperor starts walking and walking and walking. By the way, we were walking while this story was being told. I got the feeling that the story was being prolonged for my benefit till this person I would take walks with, he would make stories last till sunset. Strangely enough, as sunset, the stories would come to abrupt ends, because it's got too dark. Anyway, so he finds this yogi sitting and eating ashes. And before he can say something exactly like that, and like the earlier incident, the yogi says, "I know your question, Emperor Janaka, but I will not answer it. Tomorrow in the morning, if you really want to know the answer to your question." I'm not extending the story. This is exactly as it was told to me. I'm speeding it up a little bit. You have to keep walking to the west. You will finally come to a village where you will find in the village headman's house a baby has been born, and the baby is going to die the same day. This baby, go and ask this baby. The baby knows the answer to your question. The baby will tell you. The newborn baby. So Janaka starts walking and walking and walking. He comes to this village and he goes to the headman's house. The headman's delighted to have a visit from the emperor. He says, "Is it true that you have a newborn child?" "Yes, we have been blessed with a newborn child. Can I see the newborn child in private?" They said, "Yes, please bless the child." And she goes to the newborn child, and everybody leaves the room. And luckily the child doesn't tell him to take a walk again. So the child says, and child can speak, presumably in Sanskrit, I suppose, says to the emperor, "I know your question and I shall tell you the answer." Many centuries ago, in this village here, lived a poor widow, and she had she had 4 children, and she was finding it difficult to make ends meet. She would beg for food and bring back, and so there came a time when they had starved for 3 days. They hadn't have any food, and the children were very hungry, and the poor mother finally got 4 chapatis, 4 pieces of bread, and she didn't want anything for herself. She just gave the 4 pieces of bread to her 4 little sons. At that time comes a guest. So this is a typical Indian story. A guest comes, and if a guest comes, you have to feed the guest. And the mother said, "But I have nothing to feed you, sir. I had only 4 pieces of bread, but I can't give them to you because I've already given them to my children who are very hungry, and it belongs to them now. You have to ask them." The guest said, "I am very hungry. I need that bread." So he goes to the eldest son, who's just a little boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old. "Give me your piece of bread." And the boy said, What will I eat? Will I eat leaves, dry leaves? I'm giving you the piece of bread. Will I eat dry leaves? And so he asks so he did not give the piece of bread. And the baby said, that first boy, he is born as this yogi whom you met. He spends his days eating dry leaves. Anyway, the guest went to the second son, who was even younger, and asked for the piece of bread, and the son refused. Little boy refused. "I'm hungry. If I give that to you, what will I eat? Will I eat ashes?" And that boy, he's born as this yogi who lives eating ashes. And then he went to the youngest, the littlest kid, the third kid, who was even younger, and asked, "Can I have your piece of bread?" And the little boy said, "I'll die if I give you this piece of bread." And that little boy, O Emperor, I am, and I died, and I am born, and every time I'm born and I die the same day. All these years, I keep getting born and dying the same day. Today also, I know I will die. Then he went to the last little kid, the guest, and said, "Give me your piece of bread," who was maybe just 5 years old. Even before he could ask, the little boy held out that piece of bread and gave it to him, the chapati. And the guest was satisfied, and the little boy, the youngest son, he perished of hunger that very night. And the baby said, "O Emperor, that little boy you are." He went straight away to heaven for centuries together, and he was born in this life as an emperor who attains enlightenment, whose daughter is the mother of the universe, and God is the son-in-law of that same little boy. So that's a very beautiful story. But the whole point is the power of karma. The whole point of the story. Luckily, by that time the sunset was near and the story came to an end. So I was. But it's so the whole point of the story is that karma is very powerful. So his explanation was, you're looking at Baba Ramdev today, so he must have done something extraordinarily good in his past lives. So whatever he puts his hand to, he's extraordinarily successful. But that does not mean that the other person who's not successful and is working hard, does not mean that it's lost. That also generates good karma, which is accumulated. So one should keep on trying. Another point, another monk made, it's important to note, to activate good karma, effort is necessary. I'll tell you, this is another monk, Ramananda Saraswati said, when you serve rice, in India you have huge pots of rice. So you need a huge ladle. They are metal ladles. You have to break the rice and then bring it out and then serve it. We put it in smaller buckets. And at that time, as a novice in our monastery, that was one of my duties. It was hard work and it was very hot and humid there. So these huge, giant cauldrons of rice would come. And from that, you have to bring out the rice and put it into smaller buckets, which are then taken for serving food to people who are eating. Now, this monk gave up an example of karma. He says, if there is a lot of rice, in your big cauldron, in the big pot, even if you put the ladle in just a little bit, a lot of rice will come out. Just a little bit you try, a lot of rice will come out. If there isn't much left, then you have to put it in really deep into that big pot, into the huge cauldron, and from the bottom you can get some rice. And if there is no rice left in your cauldron, in Hindi, he said, I can't translate into English. He said, uska sirf than than shabd hi hoga. He'll just get a clanging sound. No matter how much he puts his ladle, inserts it into the huge cauldron, there's just darkness inside. There's nothing. It's just a clanging sound. But the point is, you must use the ladle to try to get something. Then only your karma is activated. And no effort goes to waste. If there's nothing happening now, it will happen in the future. Okay, so this is the background. Let me now go into the verses. This was strictly not necessary, not related to the verses, but it's a nice story I wanted to share. Now we'll understand the verses very well. śrībhagavānuvāca bahūni me vyatītāni janmāni tava cārjuna tānyahaṃ veda sarvāṇi tvaṃ vettha parantapa. The blessed Lord said, I have had many, many births earlier, O Arjuna, and you have had many, many births earlier, O Arjuna. I know them all, not only mine, but yours too, and everybody's births. You do not. You don't remember your own births. So here, see, he's first of all making the difference between an avatar and an ordinary human being, an ordinary sentient being. Avatar's knowledge, God is omniscient, and the omniscience does not go away. Avatar may just look like you and me. The incarnation of God just may look like a human being just like you and me, but that omniscience of God and the power and glory of God is still there. So Krishna says, I know it all. I have come many times earlier, not as a human being, as an avatar, as an incarnation. Many times have I been incarnated earlier. So we say that God comes as many incarnations, one after another. It's the same Lord, same God who has come as these incarnations in different times and places and different civilizations. You have come, O Arjuna, not as an incarnation, but as a human being, maybe as animal births also, something, many, many times. But you don't remember any of that. I remember all of that. Not only myself, all your births also. Whatever has happened to us in the past, God knows. I don't mean in the sense God knows what has happened. God really knows what has happened to us in the past. God knows what is happening to us now. And the Lord knows what will happen to us in this life and in future lives until our enlightenment. Everything is known to the Lord. Some yogis can find it out also. This one monk who was serving Swami Brahmananda, Rakhal Maharaj. So he was massaging Swami Brahmananda. Swami Brahmananda said once, when he was the president of the order, Swami Brahmananda, he said to this monk, massage my feet. And he was massaging his feet, and he writes, at some point I felt I had lost track of time, as if I had dropped out of time, And I noticed Swami Brahmananda was sitting up and listening closely, and I was saying certain things. And the moment I became aware of this, Swami Brahmananda lay down and appeared to lose interest. So later he realized that Swami Brahmananda, I was asking him, who are you? And what are your past lives? What are you here for? What are you going to do? What is the, so finding out everything about you. So it's there locked up in our experiences, in our subtle body, in the chitta. We just don't have access to it. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says we can actually access the memories of past lives. But don't try to do it. It's not a good idea. I think it was Sister Nivedita or Sister Christine who asked Swami Vivekananda, can we know our past lives? And Swami Vivekananda scolded her, saying that sufficient unto the day the evil thereof. You can't handle the problems of this life and you want past lives. What will past lives be like? Something like this life. Little better, little worse. What's the point of trying to find out all that? So Shankara's commentary says, you as a jiva, you have limited knowledge. I as the Lord, I have unlimited knowledge. Even becoming an avatara, it does not restrict my powers. And then he goes on to say, verse number 6, Ajo api san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhishthaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. I am unborn. Though I am unborn, I seem as if I am born. Though I am unchanging, I seem as if changing. Krishna is a baby, the baby Krishna, as a young boy, as a teenager, as the youth who is, or the middle-aged Krishna who is the charioteer of Arjuna, and so on. Seem to be changing, but I am unchanging. Bhutanam Ishvaropi san. Though I am the Lord of all beings, I appear as in the household of Vasudeva and then live my life among cowherds. And now I am your driver, your chauffeur, Arjuna's driver of the chariot, though I am the Lord of the universe. So being the Lord of the universe, the Lord can act in a very humble way. I remember this, talking about the glory of being the Lord of the universe. So this beautiful scene in a movie I had seen, I think it was 10 Commandments. It was a movie about Jesus. No, not. It's about 10 Commandments actually. It's called a Hollywood movie called 10 Commandments, very very popular. But Jesus is there in just one scene in the whole movie, as far as I remember. But it was unforgettable. I still remember it. So these Roman soldiers, they're marching past, taking the slaves past, and they go through Nazarene. And Jesus, of course, is there at that time unknown as yet. He is just a carpenter. And so this poor man wants some water. That's the movie, the way they have shown the movie. Ben-Hur. Yes, somebody said Ben-Hur. Right. It is Ben-Hur, not 10 Commandments. It's Ben-Hur. So some of you, those who have seen it, you remember the scene. So Jesus goes and gives water to this suffering man. And one of the Roman soldiers angrily comes up to prevent him, maybe to beat him, to stop him from giving water to that suffering, that this prisoner or slave or whoever it was. And all you see in the movie, you don't see the face of Jesus. All you see in the movie is just the back of Jesus' head. Jesus stands around and looks at the Roman guard, the soldier. And the entire thing is so well depicted in the expressions of that Roman soldier. First an arrogant, angry expression. Then a stunned expression. Stunned at what? Just looking into the face of this ordinary man. Stunned expression. Then a fear comes over him. And then he's humbled. And then the scene shifts to the Roman guards taking the prisoners away into the distance. And this guard who saw the face of Jesus, he keeps looking back at that little village where Jesus was. He doesn't know who he saw for that one moment. But it's like looking into the face of God. So, bhutanam ishvaropi san, I am the Lord of all beings. There is a very beautiful hymn about Sri Ramakrishna. Shishu saumyam agamya varam. In one phrase. As simple, innocent like a child. First part of the phrase. Then the next part is agamya pranamya varam. Whose majesty is unapproachable. You can only salute from a distance. Two things in the same person. Just like a child. As innocent and simple as a child. And yet when he wants, it can be awesome and terrifying. You can't even approach him. The only thing you can do is salute from a distance. And that's just a tiny, tiny fraction of the magnificence of the avatara. We have seen it in other spiritual persons also. I have seen it in, for example, Swami Bhuteshanandaji. I'm not now talking about avatars. I'm just talking about a highly advanced spiritual seeker. How they could project a simplicity and sometimes an awesomeness without any effort. I could see this 97-year-old man, old monk, sitting there, hundreds of people sitting around. With a word, he could make us roll in laughter and joke, and then with the next word, he could bring a deep silence into the room, absolute quiet, and 50, 100 monks would be rendered speechless. We would just bow down quietly. I've seen in more than one occasion, and they are unforgettable occasions. There's certain power this old man could radiate out from himself, and that's just a human being who has become very spiritual. Imagine an incarnation of God. So that is bhutanam ishvaropi san. I am the Lord of all beings, but still I appear as an ordinary human being. Then prakritim swam adhishthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Controlling my own prakriti, my maya, I appear in the world of human beings, in your world. Sambhavami, I appear. Not I am born, I appear. With using the power of my prakriti. That special power, he says, atma mayaya, it is called yoga maya. So Advaita Vedanta does not make much of it. It just says it's maya, by the power of maya. But as Swami Vivekananda said, there are two kinds of creation of maya. The entire universe and us. And the second kind is incarnations of God. So when Rama comes, Krishna comes, or Jesus comes, or Ramakrishna, they are special manifestations of the divine. This theory is much more developed in Vaishnava Vedanta, not in Advaita Vedanta, because avatara, incarnation of God, is very important in Vaishnava Vedanta. So there they say, it's not just the ordinary maya which Advaita Vedanta talks about. The ordinary maya is sattva, rajas, tamas, and from that the entire universe is produced. But they say that God, for the Vaishnava Vedantins, God is the ultimate reality and it's a personal God. So Krishna or Narayana or Vishnu. Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, each has its own power. Now I'm moving outside Advaita Vedanta. Each has its unique power. Sat, existence, has a power called Sandhini Shakti, the power to bring things into existence. Chit, consciousness, is Samvit Shakti, the power to know everything. And Ananda, bliss, has a power called Ladini Shakti, the power of divine bliss. So this power of divine joy or bliss, this is what manifests as Sita, Radha, Mary, as Sharada, as the divine mother or the divine consort of avatars. So this is called the Shakti of the avatar. Specifically in Vaishnava Vedanta, they say it's the Hladini Shakti, the one which is the spiritual bliss of God. So that is Sita or Radha or Sharada. And what do? When the incarnations come, they use another kind of power, which is called Kripa Shakti or Anugraha Shakti, power of grace. This is very important in Christianity, because the whole point of the incarnation of Jesus is grace. It's the grace of God come in the form of Jesus. What is the point of this grace? The thing is, as far as Vedanta is concerned, we are Brahman, we do not know it, and the Upanishads tell us about it and tell us how we can realize it, and that's the end. But we have this enormous load of karma, past karma, which does not enable us to progress in spiritual life. It's like being tied down. It's like being held down. We have very little freedom and power. We need help. And this help is what God gives us, especially through an incarnation. An incarnation is full of grace. So if you take refuge in an incarnation, Sri Ramakrishna said this again and again. You can have a little boat by which you go out into the river or the sea, or you can have a huge steamboat. In those days, the British had introduced steamboats in the river Ganga. So Sri Ramakrishna had seen them. On a steamboat, hundreds of people can be carried. Others, highly spiritual people, others like little canoes or little boats, which can barely take the one person. And if he gives the example of a little twig floating on the river, that's the ordinary spiritual teacher. That will cross the ocean and they can float across into the ocean. But even if a crow tries to sit on it, it will sink. So it has no power to take anybody else across. Most spiritual teachers who are advanced spiritual seekers, they take care of themselves. And they can become enlightened and they do become saved. But they have no power. They can inspire and teach others, but they really do not have indirect power to uplift others. Incarnations and some highly spiritual, some great spiritual giants, they have an extra power, the power of grace. What does grace do? It wipes out bad karma. It activates our good karma so that spiritual life becomes possible in this life itself. What was not possible for us, what would have taken us many lifetimes, is easy of achievement if one takes refuge in the avatar. This is all avatar theory. So incarnation is special in this sense. The same realization we will get. It works in two channels. I'll say this and end. It works in two channels. For the jnanis, for those who are walking on the path of knowledge, this grace manifests itself as a tremendous inquiry. In Sanskrit, jigyasa, Brahma jigyasa, an inquiry into the ultimate reality. Who am I? What is all this? This inquiry, this tremendous inquiry itself propels you through Vedanta. You will not rest until you have realized that you are Brahman. And for devotees, this grace, it manifests as what Sri Ramakrishna used to call vyakulata, a great restlessness to see God, to find God. By vyakulata, by this great restlessness to find God, which you see manifested in the life of Sri Ramakrishna to the maximum, I must see Ma Kali, the Mother Kali. I must have the vision of that. How restless he was. And later on in life he would say, one thing necessary to see God is vyakulata, that restless, divine discontent to see God. I must have God. What happens by this? By the fire of this divine discontent, the vasanas, the worldly desires, the impurities, that which ties us to the world, they are burnt off. And one goes ahead to God realization. One attains bhakti. One attains true love of God. That's one path. For the non-dualists, what happens? The tremendous eagerness to realize, jigyasa, inquiry, that destroys ignorance and brings about knowledge. Both are the result of the grace of God. Holy Mother in Banaras, she was in Banaras at one time. At that time, Swami Brahmananda and a group of monks had also gone to our hospital in Benares. They were visiting that ashram. One day, Holy Mother sent word to Swami Brahmananda. Ask Rakhal. Rakhal means Swami Brahmananda. Ask Rakhal, what is the need to worship the Divine Mother? The point being, here are the texts, aparokṣanubhuti, drigdrishya viveka, Upanishads, and you attend YouTube classes and become enlightened. That's it. I'm just oversimplifying, but that was her point. What is the purpose of worshipping the Divine Mother if you want enlightenment? And Swami Brahmananda sent back his answer. In Bengali, he said, Brahmogyanir chabikati mayer hate. The keys to the realization of Brahman are in the hands of the Divine Mother. She who makes it possible. There might be rare instances who goes directly, but even that is the grace of the Divine Mother. Totapuri had to realize this. The Guru of Sri Ramakrishna, he was enlightened. From childhood, he had tremendous dispassion, tremendous eagerness to realize God. He got the company of monks. As a young boy, he became a monk. He was blessed with strong health, pure mind, tremendous concentration. And that still took him 30 years. And he attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He realized that he is Brahman. But he didn't have that compassion for others. He did not realize all of this is due to the grace of the Divine Mother. Everybody is not blessed in this way. So then Sri Ramakrishna taught him that lesson, that even all this enlightenment, whatever you have got, and the life of an enlightened being that you are living on this earth, all of that is by the grace of the Divine Mother. All right. The next verse would be the purpose of the avatar, a very famous verse, number 7 and 8. We will do next time. Let me quickly see. 3 have raised their hand. Jayant?
Yes, Maharaj. Shekhar? Yeah.
Mr. Swamiji.
Namaste.
So an avatar never really disappear, right? Because sometimes when a devotee, like we have seen when they pray to Krishna or Rama, they appear again to the devotee. So
Very good point. So the avatar disappears means the physical form of the avatar disappears after the avatar leela on earth. But the avatar retains that form, because people from that time onwards, people will worship him, generation after generation, worship the avatar in that form. So that form is retained, and God can appear in that form to the devotee. So a worshipper of Krishna, thousands of years after Krishna, maybe Mirabai, so she sees God in the form of Krishna. You can see God in the form of Rama, you can see God in the form of Krishna. Jesus appeared to a number of Christian mystics. So if you worship God in a particular way, you can have the vision of God, especially through an avatar. That form is retained, you are correct. That form never disappears. Then next.
Gabriel, you can.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, Swami.
Hello.
I love your Gita class. And I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Do you think most or all saints were enlightened? That's the first question. And second question is, when you talk about the Divine Mother, for me, I was raised a Catholic, so of course I think more of the Virgin Mary.
Yes.
So would she fall under the category of divine?
It seems to have frozen a little bit. It froze for a moment. Yes. Okay. So, were all saints liberated, enlightened? Eventually, yes. So, what people we consider to be saints are definitely people who are spiritually very advanced. Whether they are liberated or not, enlightened or not, how would we know? But we can know this much, that they are either enlightened or they will be enlightened very shortly. Once you are at that level, you're spiritually very advanced, enlightenment is a matter of course. And would the Divine Mother Mary fall under the category of the Divine Mother? Yes. The Vaishnavas would say that it's just like the Ladini Shakti, Radha and Sita or Ma Sharada, Mother Mary. The whole purpose of worshipping Mother Mary, in the Catholic Church, it's as an intercessor who prays for us, who pleads for our case to God. So it is that power, it's basically the power of grace that comes through. She is full of grace. Yeah.
So when you say it's the Divine Mother who has the keys to Brahmajnana,
Yes.
so the Mother Mary.
Mother Mary, yes, certainly Mother Mary, you can pray to Mother Mary, and she helps us into Brahmajnana, which we would not deserve or get by our own efforts. Next.
Poonamji, you're next.
Swamiji, for us Jiva, the chit, the memory is a part of the Sukshma Sharir, which goes from birth to birth. So we don't remember due to the limitations of our mind.
Yes. So the memory is retained, but we don't remember. It's because our minds are occluded, covered, veiled by ajnana. Our powers are very limited. Even we can remember. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says by certain practices, advanced yogis can uncover memories of past lives, which means the memories are still there. They are in the subtle body. Another thing is said is that in the last life, you will have like a flashback of all previous lives. The Bodhisattva, Bhagavan Buddha, remembered so many past lives. So that means the memories are there, but they are not accessible to us. The whole point is, as jivas, our powers, all kinds of powers, memory, intelligence, creativity, imagination, all of these are greatly limited, contracted. We hardly remember what happened last week. We hardly remember what happened 1 or 2 years ago. We have no memory of our babyhood. Almost very few people have. Forget past lives. So the transition from one life to another would have been such a big trauma for us. It's all blocked. But still, you're right, it's all there, but inaccessible to us. But for Krishna, he knows not only his own, but he says, Bhutanam Ishvara, he is the Lord of all of us also. So all our memories also. He has got the password to all the data banks. He can access everything, who we are, what we are, and what's going to happen to us. Yes.
Rick, you're next.
When people, like you were just saying, have visions of Jesus or Mother Mary or Krishna, or I know people who have had very clear encounters with Brahmana, do you think that means that somehow the divine is just fabricating a vision for them? Or do you think that these beings still exist on some level, like ascended masters, and they're kind of intervening in human affairs by appearing to these devotees?
The second, which you said, that these beings exist in some form, that is basically the theology of most theistic religions. Not even that, not only that, even the non-theistic religions like Mahayana Buddhism would say there are multiplicity of Buddhas who actually exist and who help beings through through their spiritual quest from lifetime to lifetime, and they are accessible. So that would be the answer. The second one would be the answer. But if you want to be very minimalistic about it, very non-dualistic about it, Sri Ramakrishna says at one point, he saw how photographs were taken in those days. Somebody showed him. There's a glass, and then you put, I think, silver nitrate or something over it, and then it's exposed, and an image is captured there. And he said it's exactly like that. What happens in bhakti is that, like the silver nitrate, you smeared your mind, you condition your mind, in our words, with a devotion in a particular way and a particular divine form and name. So when the light streams through it, it appears to you in that particular form. It's still that same light. It is the divinity, it is God, and appearing to you in that form, and that's all right. And he says, if it's just a glass, if goes on to say, if just a glass without the silver nitrate, without smearing it with anything, it's just clear light will stream through it. So that means, I think the second one is the non-dual realization, the formless light, that one infinite being without without limit. You realize that, an expanse of being without limit. The earlier, the former, is the devotional path. So there you see there is no ontological commitment to the existence of multiple divine beings. It is more a conditioning of our minds than anything else. But remember, it is still it is an experience, a genuine experience of the divine, if you see it through whether it's the conditioning of your mind or whether it's a separate being coming to you from some other plane.
Well, if it's a separate being, then that would sort of refute the notion that the liberated being is like a drop into the ocean and no longer retains any sort of individuality.
So there again, the theologies would make distinctions between those who retain their individuality. They are called the eternally liberated, and apparently there are hosts of them. There are many of them, and there are those who have forever given up their limited individuality. So you see the difference in Mahayana Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism. The Buddha is thus gone, and the Buddha is not there. The teachings are left behind for us to become an arhat and be free. But in Mahayana Buddhism, we have there's a subject called Buddhology, a whole range of Buddhas of various worlds who exist and who are really there, out there, who help us. Now, it depends upon your taste. Some are minimalistic, some want a more baroque, gorgeous religion.
There must be some reality to the situation regardless of our taste. I mean, our taste doesn't
Right.
determine how the way the universe works.
Or it could be this way, as Sri Ramakrishna would say, reality is infinite, and you could take this path or that path. The one path would be to take the help of these spiritual beings who are really there, that's it. The other path would be to go to the reality behind all of these, the ultimate fundamental reality of the universe, which is a non-dual existence consciousness bliss, and sort of disregard all of these as appearances. Yeah. I think on that high metaphysical note, we'll bring it to an end. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jayant, would you put a link to the PayPal button? I think there was a discussion about that. Some of you said, many of you have responded generously, sending donations and things, and some have actually written checks. Some tried to send money from India. Don't try to do that. It's really difficult. It's just the people who can do it easily. And for your benefit, I think our co-host will put the button on the chat. You can just click it, and so yeah. So you can just go to the chat maybe and take a look. Yes. So do contribute whatever you can. It's like Bill used to go around in with a basket and collecting $5 and $10 here. So this is like the virtual Bill's basket. Like the virtual Bill's basket here.